it's day 6. I'm Tracy Lene. Welcome to my reading of The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Shovel Shinn. This ain't audible. I'm not going to just read the book straight through or chapter straight through. I'm going to read and talk. Read and talk. I took my braids out and just let my natural hair do what it does. And you can see where I don't have any chemicals in my hair or have dye on the ends. But the blow drying all the time, my hair is what they call overprocessed, but I love the way it's coming out. I'm getting it rebraided probably sometime in June, but you don't care about all of that. Look at me just talking. Let's get into the reading. Like I said, this is not audible. This is me reading and stopping and not editing because I'm just going to go straight through. This chapter today, like, share, and subscribe. This chapter today is casting the burden, impressing the subconscious mind. When man knows his own power and the workings of his mind, his great desire is to find an easy and quick way to impress the subconscious with good, for simply an intellectual knowledge of the truth will not bring results. In my own case, I found the easiest way is casting the burden. A metaphysician once explained it in this manner. He said, "The only thing which gives anything weight in nature is the law of gravitation. And if a boulder could be taken high above the planet, there will be no weight in that boulder. And that is what Jesus Christ meant when he said, 'My yoke is easy and my burden is light.'" He had overcome the world vibration and functioned in the fourth dimensional realm, where there is only perfection, completion, life, and joy. He said, "Come to me, all ye that labor and that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." We are also told in the 55th Psalms to cast thy burden upon the Lord. Many passages in the Bible state that the battle is God's and not man, and that man is always to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. This indicates that the subconscious mind, or Christ within, this indicates that the superconscious mind, or Christ within, is the department which fights man's battle and relieves him of burdens. We see, therefore, that man violates the law if he carries a burden. And a burden is an adverse thought or condition, and this thought or condition has its root in the subconscious mind. Faith and worry cannot occupy the same space. If you're worried about a situation, then you don't have faith in the situation changing. You got to get rid of faith. I once heard someone say that faith is soul suicide. I'm sorry. Back it up. They didn't say faith is soul suicide. They said worry is soul suicide, not faith. Faith is the evidence of things hoped for. No, that's not what faith is. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of that's yet unseen. I'm going to get it together, y'all. I'm going to get it together. But I think it's good that you see the process and not the editing. I'm not judging people who edit. I'm actually happy that they know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. But I don't think I want to learn to edit like that. I think I want to just be raw and just say it, uncut, and whatever happens, happens. We see, therefore, that man violates law if he carries a burden, and a burden is an adverse thought or condition, and this thought or condition has its root in the subconscious. It seems almost impossible to make any headway directing the subconscious from the conscious or reasoning mind, as the reasoning mind, the intellect, is limited in its conceptions and filled with doubts and fears. Yeah. How scientific is it? How scientific it then is to cast the burden upon the superconscious mind, or Christ within, where it is made light or dissolved into the native nothingness. And let me say this. I am not a Christian. I am not a Muslim. I am not a Buddhist. I am a spiritual being having a human experience that takes from those things, each of those religions, and have made the smorgasbord in which I call Tracy. This book is based on Christian principles, but you don't have to be a Christian to understand the Christ within. Christ just means light. Christ just means life. Christ just is the connection to God. So I'm hoping that if you could call yourself a Muslim, that you're going to go, "Oh, she's talking about Jesus Christ. I don't believe that." It's not about the person. It's about the substance behind all of that. It's about the energy. And that man that lived 2,000 years ago came so that he could give a word to people who hadn't connected themselves to God yet. Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, came so that he could give a book to people who were acting savage, just like everybody was on this world just doing their own thing because they had disconnected. Religion just means to tie back to. I don't believe you have to stay in a religious state or ever have to be in one. I believe that the spiritual state is different from the religious state, but that's my belief. I'm not telling you it's yours. I'm not telling you that Jesus isn't the only way, the truth, and the light. If you believe that, you believe that, and that's great. Do the works of Jesus. I'm not telling you that Muhammad, peace and blessings, didn't come to save the world from all of the things that are going wrong in it, and that if you profess that he came and he's the last greatest prophet, that you won't live a good life. That's not for me to tell you. I'm not telling you any of that. What I'm telling you is I'm reading this book, and the principles in it are really good. For example, a woman in urgent need of money made light upon the Christ within, the superconscious, with the statement, I cast this burden of lack on the Christ within, and I go free to have plenty. I told you all about that worry box I had, where when I had worries, I would just write out everything completely and then put it in the box. It's yours now, God. And then I have to take my hands off of it. And I can tell you, I went back one time to that box to empty it, and all, not some, all of those things have been worked out in ways that I would have never thought, and good ways too. The belief in lack was her burden, and as she cast it upon the superconscious with its belief in plenty, an avalanche of supply was the result. We read, the Christ in you, the hope of glory. Another example. One of my students had been given a new piano, and there was no room in her studio for it until she had moved out the old one. She was in a state of perplexity. She wanted to keep the old piano, but knew of no place to send it. She became desperate, as the new piano was to be sent immediately. In fact, it was on its way, with no place to put it. She said it came to her to repeat, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. I'm going to say that again, because you might want to start saying that. I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free. And maybe you substitute Christ for whatever you need to substitute. But cast that burden off, girl, guy. A few moments later, her phone rang, and a woman friend asked if she might rent her old piano, and it was moved out a few minutes before the new one arrived. I knew a woman whose burden was resentment. She said, I cast this burden of resentment on the Christ within, and I go free to be loving, harmonious, and happy. I think a lot of us may want to talk about that, about how resentments, like seeing somebody have something that you thought you should have and you resent that person. That's a real emotion. Just because you have it doesn't mean you're a bad person. What makes you an interesting person, because I don't want to call people good or bad anymore, is when you know that you shouldn't resent them and you keep resenting them, and then you try to block them. You really can't block them unless they leave themselves wide open for it. Where was I at? Okay. The almighty superconscious flooded the subconscious with love, and her whole life was changed. For years, resentment had held her in a state of torment and imprisoned her soul, the subconscious mind. The statement should be made over and over and over, sometimes for hours at a time, silently or audibly, with quietness but with determination. I have often compared it to winding up a victrola. We must wind ourselves up with spoken word. Remember, this book was written back in the 30s, so they had those victrolas like that to play the music. I have noticed in casting the burden, after a little while, one seems to see clearly. It is impossible to have clear vision while in the throes of the carnal mind. Doubts and fears poison the mind and body, and imagination runs riot, attracting disaster, disease. As soon as you start doubting something, all of those thoughts flood in and keeps you further doubting it, pushing you further away from letting go of that burden. We have to do that. We have to learn to let go of the burden. Insteadily repeating the affirmation, I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. The vision clears, and with it a feeling of relief. And sooner or later comes the manifestation of good, be it health, happiness, or supply. So this is the sentence. I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. I'm going to say it again so you can stop and write it down, because you may need to ask stuff like that woman had resentment. You may have the burden of being a little chubbly. Whatever your burden is, cast it. If the sentence is, I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. Got it? One more time. I cast this burden on the Christ within and go free. There we go. Whew. The vision clears, and with it a feeling of relief, and sooner or later comes the manifestation of good, health, happiness, or supply. One of my students once asked me to explain the darkness before the dawn. I referred in a preceding chapter to the fact that often before the big demonstration, everything seems to go wrong, and deep depression clouds the consciousness. It means that out of the subconscious are rising the doubts and fears of ages. Those old derelicts of the subconscious rise to the surface to be put out. That's what happens. As soon as you want something, it's almost there, all goes wrong because it's trying to see, do you really want this? Are you able to rise above the fears and the doubts and the things that are in the way so you can have it? And if you can, man, it comes, and it comes fast. It is then that man should clap his cymbals like Jehoshaphat and give thanks that he is saved, even though he seems surrounded by the enemy, the situation of lack or disease. The student continued, how long must one remain in the dark? And I replied, until one can see in the dark. You knew that was coming. You're going to be in the dark until you can see in the dark. And casting the burden enables one to see in the dark. When you just, I know you've had this happen to you before. When you've had that thing you wanted for so long and it just seems like it's not coming, you just do like Marvin Gaye and throw up both your hands. You know, it just makes you want to holler and throw up both your hands, or you take on the fuck it, it's not going to be mine. You release the energy of pushing it back, and then it comes to you. You go, oh my God, it's here. It's when you let go of your expectations that your expectations get met. It just happens. I don't understand it all the way, but I know it works. In order to impress the subconscious, active faith is always essential. Faith without works is dead. In these chapters, I have endeavored to bring out this point. Jesus Christ showed active faith when he commanded the multitude to sit down on the ground before he gave thanks for the loaves and the fishes. I will give another example showing how necessary this step is. In fact, active faith is the bridge over which man passes into his promised land. The parable of the fishes and the loaves is what's called a parable. A parable is something giving you, it's a story. I believe that what happened, and I could be wrong, and you're a Christian, you might hit me upside the head if I say this out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. When Jesus only had one fish to feed all of those people, and they said somehow he fed them all, I believe that what happened is people who own fish markets and stuff started giving fish. The fish started coming from where he started out with that, because it didn't say he cut that one up. It said that he had that, and he was able to feed the multitude. So I think what probably happened is, and I could be wrong, so I'm not going to keep telling y'all that, because y'all are like, she's sacrilegious. I'm not sacrilegious. I just look at things from a metaphysical view. And I do believe that he was able to feed all of those people because other people came to help him and give him those things. Just like you, when you need something, people help you, because we're all here together. We're all in this together. So the fishes, the parable of the fishes and the loaves, he had all those people, and one fish could not feed 1,000 people. It's just not mathematically sound, okay? And God doesn't break his own laws of the universe. So those other fish came from somewhere. Had to have. Where was I at? I will give another example showing the bridge over which man passes to his promised land. Through misunderstanding, a woman had been separated from her husband, whom she loved deeply. He refused all offers of reconciliation and would not communicate with her in any way. Coming into the knowledge of spiritual law, she denied the appearance of separation. She made this statement: there is no separation in divine mind. Therefore, I cannot be separated from the love and companionship which are mine by divine right. I'm going to say it again, because you may be in this situation and want this to be on repeat. There is no separation in divine mind. Therefore, I cannot be separated from the love and companionship which are mine by divine right. She showed active faith by arranging a place for him at the table every day, thereby impressing the subconscious mind with a picture of his return. Over a year passed, but she never wavered, and one day he walked in. How many of us would have waited a whole year? I know I wouldn't. I'd be like, I did this for 3 days, and he ain't come back, so on to the next one, on to the next one. I don't know if I would have done that, but I don't think I would have done a whole year. But When you want something, you've got to be willing to separate time from it. You've got to say, I don't know when it's going to come. I just know it's going to come. So she knew in her heart that this was a misunderstanding. This was her husband, and she was waiting for it. And she did it for over a year. And one day he walked in. The subconscious is often impressed through music. That's why they make sure we listen to filthy stuff, calling women bitches and hoes. And women saying, you know, I just get my nut and I'm out. All of that is by design, so that you stay in a state of lower desires. That's what they want. And by the they, I mean the people controlling this thing, the spiritual wickedness in high places that we call the government, that we call Hollywood. That's just the reality of it. The music industry, it's on purpose so that you don't flourish. And then the few people get to keep all of the money, and some people have none of the money. That's not God, okay? That's not Jesus. That's not Buddha. That's not Muhammad. That's not Gandhi. That's not any of them. It's the people that want to make sure you don't have. So they keep the music being as filthy as they can, or making you think ain't nothing wrong with a little bump and grind, or that anytime, any place. All of those songs, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and we fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. Where was I at before I went on my soapbox rant? Okay. Music has a fourth dimensional quality and releases the sound from imprisonment. It makes wonderful things seem possible and easy of accomplishment. You remember Nas' song, I Know I Can Be What I Want to Be? When they would play that song in schools, they did a study on this. There was a school that did this for like a year, just played that song for kindergartners. And they followed those kindergartners, and those children did far better than their peers because the subconscious mind told them they could do whatever they want to do. That's why there's also hurts in music, and you can look this up. I'm not making this up. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. Rockefeller bought the rights to certain hurts so that it couldn't be put in music anymore. He didn't let it out. Now you can go on YouTube and you can find it, because there's a time when things have to release, where patents and stuff go away. And you can see the hertz, the 430 hertz, the 520. There's so many different hertz, and listen to them. Try this for 2 weeks. Drink the amount of water you're supposed to drink for your body weight. And when you go to bed at night, turn on the hertz that you're looking for, whether it's love, money. Go find it and listen to it for 2 weeks and watch the difference in your life. It takes a little bit of time because we've been inundated with all of the foolishness for so long. It takes some time. I don't even listen to the radio. I listen to Sirius often, or YouTube on my own Apple. But you're not going to put in my mind that women ain't nothing but bitches and hoes, because no. Or that all we want to do is secure a bag from a man. No. I have a friend who uses her Victrola daily for this purpose. It puts her in perfect harmony and releases the imagination. Another woman often dances while making her affirmations. The rhythm and harmony of music and motion carry her words forth with tremendous power. Music is powerful. Dance is powerful. When I was in the church, I went to Union Temple Baptist Church when I was at Howard University. And I wanted to feel the Holy Ghost. I saw all these other people doing it. I was like, I want to feel that. And I went to bed that night, and I said, I'm going to church tomorrow, and I want to feel that Holy Ghost. I want to see if it's real. I went to church, and the music was just really jumping and great. We used to call it Sunday morning disco. But there was a time when this man was playing the drums, and I got up and I was singing the song and moving, and all of a sudden something took over me, and I couldn't control my limbs, and I felt light. I felt elated. I felt happiness, and I just started shaking. I felt this energy moving through my body. My mouth became very dry. It was real. That Holy Ghost power is real. It's what happens is music puts you in a trance. So when you get really high in that trance, you just let go of everything, and then there you are. The same way with music putting you in a trance. When everything is low down, you let go of all of the good stuff, and you just low down and dirty, just like that music. Because what else are you going to be but what you listen to and eat? Another woman dances, yeah. So dancing, yeah. And there's dances we'll see. Tribal dances for different things. So that they'll have one for music, for rain. They'll have one for positive things. They'll have one for mating. It's real. So when we start doing all that gyrating, that's sexual. because we're trying to call on a mate, a sexual mate. So when you have a child doing, people go, you making it sexual. It's a child. Why is a child bumping and grinding? Why is a child twerking? You say, oh, she's just a child. She don't understand. Innately, her body is wired for sexuality, but it's just not time yet. We turning on people's sexuality way too early. Way too early. Another one, okay, we already did that one. The student must remember also not to despise the day of small things. Like I say, I today want $10,000 and I get a $10 bill. I'm like, this ain't $10,000. Hey, I'm recording right now, sweetie. I'll be down in a minute. That's my grandson. The student must remember not to despise the day of small things. Invariably, before a demonstration comes signs of land. Before Columbus reached America, he saw birds and twigs which showed him the land was near. So it was a demonstration, but often the student mistakes it for the demonstration itself and is disappointed. Notice she didn't say discovered. Because how you going to discover a place full of people? He didn't discover America. He found it for the people who didn't know about it. But America was here. It wasn't called America. It was just a place with people. For example, a woman had spoken the word for a set of dishes. Not long afterwards, a friend gave her a dish which was old and cracked. She came to me and said, well, I asked for a set of dishes, and all I got was a cracked plate. I replied, the plate was only the sign of land. It shows you dishes are coming. Look upon it as birds and seaweed, and not long after the dishes came. I've done that too. I've asked for something, and then something smaller comes, and I knew, okay, you better be grateful for this, because that's just the birds and the seaweed, and then the bigger thing did come. Continually making believe impresses the subconscious. If one makes believe he is rich and makes believe he is successful, in due time he will reap. You know how we say, you got to see it, you got to feel it, you got to act the part. If you want to be wealthy, would a wealthy person do the things you're doing now? If not, stop doing those things and do what the wealthy people do. Children are always making believe, and except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. For example, I know of a woman who is very poor, but no one can make her feel poor. She earned a small amount of money from rich friends who constantly reminded her of her poverty. Them was not her friends. And to be careful in saving, regardless of their admonishings. She would spend all her earnings on a hat or make someone a gift and be in a rapturous state of mind. Her thoughts were always centered on beautiful clothes, rings, and things, but without envying others. She loved things. That's me. Let me tell you something. My circle, many of them are millionaires, and I love that for them. I love that they are doing what they need to do, and the money is rolling in. And when I have something I'm working on, I know I can go to them, and they support me. They are my friends. They don't try to make me feel bad for where I am. They often encourage me. And people don't have to give you their money. Okay, they worked hard for their money. They ain't got to give it to you. They can invest in you, but you can invest in yourself too. And if you're in deep need, you know that they will be there for you. If they're not your friends. But you can't keep running back to them every 10 seconds. You got to do your own thing too. She lived in the world of the wondrous, and only riches seemed real to her. Before long, she married a rich man, and the rings and the things became visible. I do not know whether the man was the divine selection, but opulence had to manifest in her life as she had imagined only opulence. So she married someone, may not have been her divine selection, but that man had some money, and he took care of her. I think, the book don't say that, but I'm assuming. There is no peace or happiness for man until he has erased all fear from the subconscious. Fear is misdirected energy and must be redirected, transmuted into faith. Jesus Christ said, why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? All things are possible to him that believeth. I'm going to say that again. All things are possible to him that believeth. I am asked so often by my students, how can I get rid of fear? I reply, by walking up to the thing you are afraid of. The lion takes his fearlessness from your fear. You hear that? People take your fearlessness, their fierceness from your fear. The lion takes his fierceness from your fear, not fearlessness, fierceness from your fear. Walk up to the lion and he will disappear, run away, and he runs after you. I have shown in previous chapters how the lion of lack disappeared when the individual spent money fearlessly, showing faith that God was his supply, therefore unfailing. Many of my students have come out of the bondage of poverty and are now bountifully supplied through losing all fear and letting money go out. The subconscious is impressed with the truth that God is the giver and the gift. Therefore, as one is one with the giver, he is one with the gift. A splendid statement is this: I now thank God, the giver, for God, the gift. I now thank God, the giver, for God, the gift. Man has so long separated himself from his good and his supply through thoughts of separation and lack that sometimes it takes dynamite to dislodge these false ideas from the subconscious, and the dynamite is a big situation. We see in foregoing illustration how the individual was freed from his bondage by showing fearlessness. Man should watch himself hourly to detect if his motive for action is fear or faith. Choose ye this day whom ye shall serve, fear or faith. Perhaps one's fear is of personality. Then do not avoid the people feared. Be willing to meet them cheerfully, and they will either prove golden links in the chain of one's good or disappear harmoniously from one's pathway. Perhaps one's fear is of disease or germs, that one should be fearless and undisturbed in a germ-laden situation, and he would be immune. One can only contract germs while vibrating at the same rate as the germ. I tell y'all, I don't get sick because I don't vibrate at the level of sickness. I don't get colds. The one time I got COVID was after COVID, the big thing of COVID was down, and they, were telling people it wasn't like going to kill you. This particular, I'm careful with my words because so many people lost their lives through that. I don't ever want to seem like I'm downplaying it. But I had it for 3 days. I couldn't taste, I couldn't smell, and I just was tired. And then in the third day, I was up and going. And I had told my friend in the beginning of COVID, well, I'm never going to get it. She said, you don't know that. I said, I do know that. I don't get sick. So this ain't no different. I'm not going to get sick. You shouldn't say that because you don't know. I said, I just told you I know. And so when I got it, she said, see? And I said, well, I let my guard down for a few moments because I started listening to everybody. And so I thought, ooh, maybe. And it came in, but it didn't come in strong because I put my guard back up quick. Only one can contract germs while vibrating at the same rate as the germ. And fear drags men down to the level of the germ. And I am not saying that all the people who had COVID, no, I am saying they weren't vibrating high enough to not have it. That's just the truth. That's why a lot of people didn't get it, maybe. But the people that passed, may God be pleased with their souls. And we learned a lot about our health during that crisis, that we don't eat properly and that our bodies aren't prepared to fight off strong germs because the food is poisoned and we don't exercise and our thoughts are pretty low. I personally believe that COVID came out of all of the negative energy in the world. That's my own thoughts. Of course, the disease-laden germ is the product of carnal mind, as all thought must objectify. Germs do not exist in the superconscious or divine mind. Therefore, they are a product of man's vain imagination. In the twinkling of an eye, man's release will come when he realizes there is no power in evil. The material world will fade away, and the fourth dimensional world, the world of the wondrous, will swing into manifestation. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. That is the end of the chapter. Tomorrow we start the chapter called Love. I am excited. I'm happy that you stuck with me. Understand that I am a person with my own personal beliefs, and I am in no way telling anybody what to believe. My way is not law. It's not set in stone. It's simply my way. I never hope to offend anybody. If I do, charge it to my head and not my heart, because that's just not who I am. You get to believe what you want to believe. I get to believe what I believe, and I don't debate on my beliefs anymore. I'll be 56 in 29 more days, and I've come to the space where I get to believe what I believe, and I let people believe what they believe in peace and love. I thank you for listening to me. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, I would love it. The more subscribers, the more I get out. I'm going to keep reading books. This is just the first of many books. Have a great day. Love you guys.